Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the dusty archives of animation history. We all remember the big names: Bugs Bunny, Mickey Mouse, Tom and Jerry. They're legends, and for good reason. But what about the characters who once shared the limelight with them, only to fade into obscurity? The ones who were stars in their own right, but for one reason or another, didn't quite make it into the 21st century. Well, get ready for a nostalgia trip, because we're about to meet the forgotten legends of classic cartoons. Our first stop is a character who was once Universal Pictures' biggest animated star, even bigger than Woody Woodpecker for a time. I'm talking about Oswald, the Lucky Rabbit. Created in 1927 by none other than Walt Disney and UBI Works, Oswald was a sensation. He was a mischievous, adventurous black rabbit with long, floppy ears and a knack for getting into trouble. His cartoons were filled with surreal gags and a bouncy rubber hose animation style that was groundbreaking for its time. He starred in a series of successful silent shorts, and his popularity was soaring. You might look at him and think, hey, he kind of looks like an early version of Mickey Mouse. And you'd be absolutely right. So, what happened? In a now infamous business dispute, producer Charles Mintz, who distributed the cartoons, essentially stole the rights to Oswald right out from under Walt Disney. Universal Pictures owned the character, not Disney. Walt lost his star and most of his animation staff. It was a devastating blow. But, as we all know, from the ashes of that defeat, Walt Disney went on to create a certain mouse, and the rest is history. Oswald, meanwhile, continued to appear in cartoons under different animators. Like Walter Lantz, but his design changed, and the magic just wasn't the same. His popularity dwindled, and by the late 1940s, he had all but disappeared from the screen. For decades, he was little more than a trivia question for animation buffs. But here's the happy ending. In 2006, in a truly wild trade, Disney CEO Bob Iger traded a sportscaster to NBC Universal in exchange for the rights to Oswald. The Lucky Rabbit was finally home. He's since appeared in video games and merchandise, a beloved cult figure rediscovered by a new generation. Next up, let's talk about a character who was a true pioneer. Before Felix the Cat, before Mickey Mouse, there was Gertie, the dinosaur. Created by the legendary animator Winsor McCay in 1914, Gertie wasn't just a character in a cartoon. She was the star of a live vaudeville act. McCay would stand on stage next to a giant screen, and through thousands of painstaking drawings, he would interact with Gertie. He'd command her to do tricks, feed her a pumpkin, and even ride on her back in the film's finale. Audiences had never seen anything like it. They believed Gertie was a real, living, breathing creature. McCay's film established that animation could be more than just a simple gimmick. It could create characters with personality, emotion, and weight. Gertie was playful, a little shy, and sometimes disobedient, just like a real animal. She was the first animated character to truly connect with an audience on an emotional level. So why isn't Gertie a household name today? Well, the animation process was incredibly labor-intensive. McCay drew every single frame himself on rice paper, a monumental task. The industry soon moved towards a more factory-like production model, with teams of animators, which McCay wasn't a fan of. His meticulous artistic approach was left behind for a faster, more cost-effective method. While Gertie's influence is immeasurably inspiring everyone from Walt Disney to Otto Mesmer, the character herself slipped into the pages of history books, a foundational pillar of the art form that is too often overlooked. Now, let's jump forward a couple of decades to the golden age of theatrical shorts. Warner Brothers had its Looney Tunes. MGM had Tom and Jerry and Fleischer Studios. Well, they had a whole universe of weird and wonderful characters. While Popeye and Betty Boop are still well remembered, who here remembers Coco the Clown? Coco was one of animation's earliest stars, emerging from Max Fleischer's groundbreaking Out of the Inkwell series, which began in 1918. The series was pure magic. It blended live action and animation. with Max Fleischer himself appearing on screen as the cartoonist who would dip his pen into an ink bottle, only for Coco the Clown to spring to life on the drawing board. Coco was a mischievous and fluid character, often interacting with the real world around him, blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. He would jump off the page, play with Fleischer's tools, and cause all sorts of charming chaos. This innovative technique, combined with the smooth, lifelike animation from Fleischer's invention, the rotoscope, made these cartoons a massive hit. Coco, along with his dog Fitz, starred in dozens of silent films and even made the transition to sound. But with the arrival of characters like Betty Boop in the early 1930s, Coco's spotlight began to fade. He was often relegated to a supporting role in Betty's cartoons before disappearing almost entirely. The Fleischer Studios' own internal shifts and eventual restructuring into Famous Studios sealed his fate. While he was a foundational character for one of animation's most important studios, Coco the Clown was ultimately left behind in the inkwell. Our next forgotten legend is a duo who, for a time, were serious rivals to Tom and Jerry. Meet Heckle and Jekyll, the talking magpies from Terry Toon's studio, created in the mid-1940s. These two were identical in appearance, but often portrayed with different accents, one with a sophisticated British accent, the other with a rougher, Brooklyn-style voice. Unlike the simple chase dynamics of many cartoons, Heckle and Jekyll's humor was more verbal and psychological. They weren't just causing chaos. They were fast-talking con artists who would outwit and verbally dismantle their opponents, usually a dim-witted bulldog or a flustered fox. Their comedy was built on clever wordplay, non-sequiturs, and breaking the fourth wall. They were smarter than everyone else in the room, and they knew it, and they took great joy in tormenting their foes with relentless wisecracks. They were incredibly popular throughout the 40s and 50s, starring in a long-running series of theatrical shorts and eventually making their way to television. So why are they largely forgotten while Tom and Jerry are still global icons? A big part of it comes down to the studio. Terry Toons was often seen as a lower-budget, less innovative studio compared to giants like MGM or Warner Brothers. The animation wasn't as lush. The stories were often formulaic, and they just didn't have the same level of artistic ambition. As theatrical cartoons died down and television became king, Heckle and Jekyll just couldn't maintain the same level of cultural relevance as their A-list competitors. Finally, let us talk about a character who proves that even being an Academy Award winner doesn't guarantee immortality. Let me introduce you to the Dover Boys at Pimento University, or the exciting escapades of the Dover Boys. This wasn't a series, but a single. Revolutionary one-off Merry Melodies cartoon from 1942. Directed by the great Chuck Jones, the short is a parody of old-fashioned youth adventure novels from the turn of the century. It follows the heroic, clean-cut Dover boys Tom, Dick, and Larry as they rush to save their beloved fiancée, Dora Standpipe, from the clutches of the villainous coward, Dan Backslide. What makes this cartoon legendary among animators is its groundbreaking style. Jones threw out the realistic, fluid animation rulebook and embraced a technique that would later be called limited animation. Characters pop from one stylized, exaggerated pose to another, with blurry smears in between to indicate fast movement. It was abstract, it was hilarious, and it was unlike anything audiences had seen before. It was also a way to save time and money. Studio head Leon Schlesinger absolutely hated it. He thought it looked cheap and broken. But the cartoon was a massive hit with audiences and, more importantly, with other animators. Its influence is enormous. It directly paved the way for the stylized look of UPA cartoons like Mr. Magoo and Gerald McBoing. And you can see its DNA in everything from the Ren and Stimpy show to SpongeBob SquarePants. Yet, ask the average person on the street about the Dover Boys, and you'll probably get a blank stare. They remain a cartoonist's cartoon, a massively important but publicly forgotten masterpiece. So there you have it, From Oswald, the Lucky Rabbit, to the Dover Boys, these are just a few of the fascinating characters who helped build the world of animation, only to be lost to time. They remind us that history is written by the victors, but the stories of the runners-up are often just as interesting. What are some of your favorite forgotten cartoons? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.